What's up, Bills fans? Sorry about the technical difficulties. If you guys were tuning in to the 9 o'clock edition of the show, I've had some issues with my mic system lately, and I'm going to work towards replacing that in the near future, very near future. Very frustrating. I am frustrated. If you can't tell, I'm pissed. I'm not in a good mood as a Bills fan right now, and it sounds funny and stuff like that. I take this shit seriously because I'm so sick and tired of the Patriots getting their way constantly. And what really miffs me about this whole Brandon Cooks trade, it just blows my mind that teams are even trading with the Patriots. If the Patriots called me and said, hey, we want Brandon Cooks, I wouldn't even answer the phone. That would be the one team that I would say, you know what, no. Just no, we're not helping you out. You guys have had 5 Super Bowls with Tom Brady, with Bill Belichick. Earn it another way. Do it another way. You're not doing it through us. And the Saints traded basically a second-round pick, or basically got a second-round pick from the Patriots. That pick is valuable, certainly, but they're trading away one of their first-round picks that was the best receiver on their team since day one. So where Brandon Cooks was drafted, he's worth way more than where he was drafted. And that's very frustrating as a Bills fan to see New England once again get their way. And what's even more frustrating as a Bills fan is realizing that the Buffalo Bills are a long, long way away, even with the additions that they have made. And I hate to say it, Bills fans, I really do. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Wide receiver, they have 4 wide receivers, Sammy Watkins, Walt Powell, Kobe Listenby, and Desmond Lewis. Not a good group. Sammy Watkins has missed 11 games over the last 2 years. He's coming off a second foot surgery in as long as the calendar year, and the free agent options are not that good, and they're commanding way too much money. Kamar Aiken, around $7 million a year. Floyd around $8.6 million a year when you compare it to other deals that have been done in free agency at this point. Brian Quick, I mean, these guys aren't the cream of the crop. That's a fact. There's talk that they could restructure Cordy Glenn. There's talk that they could restructure Marcel Darius. They better find a way to do something because this receiver position is decimated. Not that it was even that good before. They needed depth before Robert Woods and Marquise Goodwin left. Now they're even more behind. The secondary, they got Micah Hyde. He's a safety. He's not a corner. Ronald Darby, Kevon Seymour, Charles Gaines, and Marcus Robertson. Again, not the most redeeming group in the NFL, without a doubt. Linebacking core, Preston Brown, Reggie Ragland, Max Valls, and Ramon Humber. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Max's last name right. That's how much I don't know who he is, and I know this team like inside and out, so to speak. Zach Brown is a guy that's saying that he might not be coming back, and you also have Lorenzo Alexander, in talks to come back, but nothing has been, no headway has been made there. Right tackle is another position that hasn't been really filled. They got Vladimir, the offensive lineman. I'm saying Vladimir because I can't pronounce his last name for the life of me. And last but not least, defensive end. Defensive end, for those that don't know, the Bills have Jerry Hughes and Shaq Lawson. That's it. That's all they got at the defensive end position. Two defensive ends. That's it. This is mind-blowing that they only have 2. It's mind-blowing that people are even talking about other needs that the team has instead of defensive ends, and the only 2 guys that we have are the guys that we start. We have no depth. There's no backup. There's no third string. So what are they going to do there? Tight end, Charles Clay, Nick O'Leary. Nick O'Leary, is everyone excited about Nick O'Leary being the backup tight end? I'm not. Which is why I have a Buffalo Bills mystery player put on my board, a guy that I have watched the last few years in college, a guy that hasn't really been talked about as a possibility for the Bills. At least I haven't seen it. And that is Alabama tight end O.J. Howard, 6'6", 250, 4.5 speed at the combine, one of the best athletes in this year's draft, a dominant tight end in college, not as dominant as Alabama expected him to be, but a guy nonetheless, I think he'll actually be better in the National Football League than he will be in the NCAA in college. The Bills haven't had a game-breaking tight end like this since the days of Pete Metzelaars. Charles Clay, great tight end, but you have one and you have two. That makes things even better. You saw the way Greg Olsen was used in the Carolina offense. Maybe Sean McDermott takes some tips from that. You saw the way Julius Thomas was used in the Denver offense when Rick Dennison was there. You saw the way Todd Heap / Dennis Pitta were used. I believe Dennison was there with Heap. I could be wrong. But, Dennis Pitta has been the tight end for the Ravens the last few years. Kubiak and Dennison were there for that. So to get a guy like O.J. Howard would be a shiny new toy for Tyrod Taylor to throw to. Tyrod has great difficulty seeing over the middle of the field. If he had a big target that he could rely on over the middle of the field, it would be like having a tight end as a wide receiver 2 and a tight end as a wide receiver 3. Great blocker. Clay is a great blocker. You have DeMarco. You have Tolbert. You kind of have a blocking type. You have a lot of blocking type pass catching options in Howard, Tolbert, DeMarco, and Clay. 4 to be exact. And that would bode well, I think, for the Buffalo Bills offense. They're a running offense, but O.J. Howard will be that mismatch on the field at all times for the opposing defenses. I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked in the slightest if Buffalo took O.J. Howard 10th overall. It'd be another O.J. heading to Buffalo, no pun intended. Hopefully it doesn't turn out hopefully he doesn't turn out to be like the last O.J. that was in Buffalo. I highly doubt he will. Anyway, bad joke, but you get the point. That is my Buffalo Bills mystery player, O.J. Howard. You got Tyrod here the next 2 years. You need to build around him. You need to build around him in order to be successful. You have to have weapons on the outside and on the inside. Behind him, he's going to have weapons. He's got McCoy. He's got the big back and Tolbert. So we'll see what happens. Gillislee is up in the air as well. Gillislee coming back, I don't know yet, but that is up in the air. You got a lot of question marks heading into the draft with only 6 picks to fill those holes. It's a bad situation. They have to restructure Darius's contract. They have to restructure Cordy Glenn to fill these needs via free agency, or else the Bills will have a very miserable season regardless of who they bring in the draft. You can't expect rookies to come in day one, rounds 1 to 7, and be immediate impact players. Really, only 2 to 3 per draft are going to come in and be immediate impact players. The Bills are a long way away, and today they're even further down the road as of tomorrow, as Brandon Cooks is now a New England Patriot. Tom Brady has a new weapon to throw to, a weapon that'll probably be in New England for the next 10 to 12 years, as he's a very young receiver, didn't even finish his rookie contract yet, in the same year of his career as Sammy Watkins. So Buffalo will now be playing a receiver in which Buffalo could have drafted rather than trading up to get Sammy Watkins. It's like rubbing it in, playing kickball or something like that. And you're trying to get the game-winning run, and you get thrown out. Literally, the ball hits you right in the face. Everybody points and laughs, and you're made to be a schmuck in front of your friends and in front of everybody watching the game. It is not a good feeling. And they bring in Stephon Gilmore. They get a guy from Buffalo that I wanted them to let go. I didn't think he was worth the money he was asking for. On the Bills, he wasn't, because the Bills have so many other needs that they can't invest in a player like that. The Patriots have drafted so well over the course of the last 5 to 10 years, especially, that they can go out and spend that much money on a corner and make no bones about it and not have any hesitation whatsoever. Plug that player in with the over-the-top safety protection in Bill Belichick's scheme, and he will be successful. And that will be the case with Stephon Gilmore. And then you have Brandon Cooks, a faster Julian Edelman, easily one of the best deep threats in the NFL, and it's not because he's 6'5", it's because he's quick. It's because he's one of the fastest receivers in the league. So you bring in a guy like that, that only bodes well for Tom Brady. And there's talk that Adrian Peterson could be on the way. That kind of fizzled out. As time went on, that fizzled out. But I really hoped that this would not happen. I hoped that Brandon Cooks would not become a New England Patriot. And now that he has, this is worst case scenario for not just Buffalo. Forget Buffalo. This is the worst case scenario for the National Football League. You have teams trying to catch up to the New England Patriots, and now they will not be able to catch up because the Patriots just keep adding, replacing. They bring in Cooks. That was an addition. They didn't lose any wide receivers. They might let go of one, maybe Amendola, but they bring in Cooks as an addition. They lose Logan Ryan. They bring in Stephon Gilmore. Or they know they're losing Logan Ryan. They bring in Stephon Gilmore. They lose Martellus Bennett. He's a free agent. He wants to get paid. The Packers pay him. Then he goes to the Packers. He goes to the Packers today. But even before that, the Patriots, again, were proactive. They went out, made a trade for Dwayne Allen, a guy that has had 15 touchdowns, I believe, in 2-3 years, something like that. A guy that Andrew Luck heavily relied on. Again, taking pieces of other teams that aren't just backups. They were heavily relied on. And that's the difference. You got a team in the Bills that has 2 starting defensive ends on each side. Those are the only 2 defensive ends on their roster. Something needs to be done. That there needs to be, as far as how they could fill these holes, guys like Kyle Williams, this is why guys like Kyle Williams should have been cut. This is why guys like Eric Wood should have been cut, to open up cap space to fill the multiple needs that this team has going forward. We're not going to go to the playoffs paying a defensive tackle $9 million, that's $35. We're not going to go to the playoffs paying a, for the lack of a better term, ill-tempered defensive tackle over $100 million. So these things need to change. Cordy Glenn commits way too many penalties to be paid the amount that he is being paid. Restructure that contract. Darius has a lot to prove to me, not just as a fan, but if I were in that building, he would have a lot to prove to me as far as his dominance. Can he be dominant for a full 16 games and be a reliable player for this franchise rather than screwing off the field and getting into trouble? That's not what we want for our Bills. We want the best case scenario for the Bills, and we cannot afford screw-ups. We can't afford screw-ups because this team is as weak depth-wise on defense as it has been in a long, long time. And that's a fact. You can blame Rex Ryan for trying to implement his 3-4 defense. You can do that all you want, and you wouldn't be wrong. But there's a GM in place, and the GM's job is to build depth at each and every position on the roster. And Doug Whaley has done a terrible job of building depth for the long haul on a team. We saw our second-round pick from 2013 leave. We saw our first-round pick from, I believe, 2010 leave, 2011 leave. I can't even remember. 2012 maybe. Anyway, Gilmore was a first-round pick, 6-year corner. So, yeah, around there. So, it's baby steps, and the Bills are moving way too slow. We're a long way away